So I am very happy to welcome all of you on behalf of ICF Luxembourg. And from ICF Luxembourg, we have been doing a series of webinars so far. Before this, we were doing a series on ICF core competencies and understanding the definition and the sub competencies that are there under each of the core competencies. So that was very useful for all the participants, and we had a great time co-learning that together and refreshing that. And the end of last year, we started this new series, which is on the ICF PCC markers. So we are covering today the ICF PCC marker 5, 4, and 5, as I was sharing. Before this, I'll just give you a brief introduction about myself. I represent the secretary role for the ICF Luxembourg chapter currently. I'm a ICF PCC leadership coach, and I usually work with leaders one on one or through corporate engagements. I also work as a mentor coach with one of the institutes called Kucharya, and I work with the coaches who are on their ICF, ACC, PCC paths. I do the mentoring for them, and I also do the assessment or evaluation of their recording. I am also a systemic coaching and constellations facilitator. So I do workshops and I also integrate constellations in my one on one coaching as well. I have my background in human resources and over a decade of experience with various corporate organizations in the capacity of a human resource professional. This is my LinkedIn. Probably I will paste it in the chat box later. And yeah, this is the website. So happy to have all of you today here in the session and to have the opportunity to create a learning space for all of us. So this is a four-part series that we are doing, and we covered competency 3 ICF PCC markers in the last one. So today we are looking at the 4 and 5, and hopefully we'll be able to cover both together. I am hopeful. As I was preparing this session, I felt that it's a lot together, but let's see how we're able to do it. You're most welcome to share your perspectives or your insights, examples from what you have experienced as we go deeper and explore each of these markers today. So we'll start with the competency 4, which is cultivates trust and safety. And under this, the first marker is 4.1, which says that coach acknowledges and respects the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process. So, here, if you look at the definition of this marker, it is about acknowledgement and respect. And the definition of this marker, as per the assessment criteria, says that the coach should demonstrate both acknowledgement and respect for the client. Now, this could be done verbally through the language that the coach is using, and it can also be shown non verbally in the way the relationship is reflected in that coaching session which the assessor is looking at. So it could be the tonality with which the coach is asking questions, the kind of questions the coach is asking. It shows that if the coach is respecting and acknowledging the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process. So this is also a double marker. Whenever I'll be using the term double, it would mean that when you demonstrate marker 4.1, you are also demonstrating one more marker along with this. So uh, every time when the coach is demonstrating 4.1, which is acknowledging and respecting the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process, the coach is also demonstrating one of the 11 competency 2 criterias, which is that the uh, coaching, which is about the coaching mindset, that the coach exhibits an open, curious, flexible mindset. This also covers that. So when the assessor will be evaluating a coaching recording and is giving a 4.1 marker observed, it will also mean that there will be a competency 2 marker there that will also be observed along with this every time. So that's why this becomes very important for in our professional coaching recordings that we do for the ICF, ACC, PCC recordings. Now here, if you look at this marker, what is really important is the client centeredness part, that that coaching is a client centric process, and that client centric part of competency 2 is the highlight here. And because it is not coach centric, it is client centric. The coach is looking at the client as the most resourceful, as the most uh, talented, most insightful human being sitting in front of them. And hence is acknowledging each time the client is showing the commitment to change or is showing an intention to become more aware, or for example is bringing some clarity in the coaching session, is doing some deep reflective work. So each time that is happening, the coach can either acknowledge it directly or indirectly through the way they are paraphrasing their questions or sharing their observation or asking the next question. It can be demonstrated that the coach is acknowledging and respecting the client's insights or the talent that the client has in front of them. For example, it could be that uh, this insight that you brought in this moment is really helping in deepening your work today. Could be one of the examples of an acknowledgement. Or may I acknowledge you for your deep ability to reflect, or may I acknowledge you for your openness in this moment, because of which we could go deeper. Or I can understand that this is difficult for you, but may I acknowledge your openness in sharing this with me, or your vulnerability in this moment to share. This is, I can hear that this is really a sensitive area for you and you're opening up in this moment, so may I acknowledge that. So it has to be authentic, it has to be true in that moment, because the authenticity and the truthfulness of your response in that moment to the client will build the trust and safety, because the client can sense that the coach is allowing me or holding the space for me in a way that I can open up, I can share anything. It is okay for me to be vulnerable. It is okay for me to share my thoughts, or I am encouraged here in this space. I am acknowledged here in this space. I'm seen here. I am valued here. So all of those really gives the message to the client repeatedly, or reinforces that I can become more open, I can become more vulnerable, and I can feel more safe here. So that's about the marker 4.1. Now, what could be some of the examples of the coach not demonstrating this? It could be the coach is taking over the agenda. The coach is deciding for the client that this is where we should go next. So then the coach is not giving respect to the client, or is thinking that the client is responsible or is resourceful to decide for themselves where they want to go next. So that that if that is happening, that the client coach is taking over the agenda, then it shows to the assessor that the coach is not allowing the client to take charge of the session, and to and is not respecting the client. Some of the other examples could be that if the coach says that, I hear that insight and I don't think that's appropriate for you, knowing you. So this is an example that the coach is thinking that the client, whatever the client is coming up with, is not okay, and I can guide the client better, or I can advise the client in this moment. So his coach is taking an advising role here, and that is why this becomes a problem here. One of the examples where this is demonstrated well could be that, wow, I really want to recognize the energy of digging down deep into this work. Good work. So, this way, the coach is acknowledging the client for their innate ability of going deeper. Uh, it could also be passive. It can be shown in passive ways, this marker. For example, when the coach is allowing the client to talk, to explore, this shows indirectly to the assessor that the coach is allowing the client and is acknowledging and respecting the client here. And in the active way, it would be the examples that we discussed, or it could also be more examples like, I really want to acknowledge the your drive to move forward, or oftentimes I observe in my clients that they have this in commitment to change. So I acknowledge that as well. That may I acknowledge your commitment towards this change that you're bringing in this session. So the client our clients who most of the time are struggling with uh, doing part in their life, and where most of the time what is not right is highlighted for them. When we highlight something where we are acknowledging them for simple things as well, like which are never acknowledged out in the outside world, it matters a lot to them, and that really helps in building that trust and safety for our clients. So, and when we are doing that without authority. We are not trying to be authoritative or directive there when we are acknowledging them or when we are showing a respect for them. Um, Here, if you look at the word, the coaching process, coach acknowledges and respects the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process. So, what does coaching process mean? The coaching process means that the coach shows up as very inquisitive, curious, holding the space for the client, and allowing the client to do the work in the coaching process. For example, yes. So, one of the examples could be that the coach says to the client that you talked about this for the last 10-15 minutes. Would you like to reflect or explore what could be supportive for you? So, here, the coach is inviting the client again to explore something, go more deeper, and the coach is also showing curiosity in the coaching process, and is also coming from that mindset that my client is innately resourceful, and my client can find their own possibilities, insights, and do the work in this coaching process. Now, I would like to open this question for all of you to reflect on what is the benefit for the client when the coach does that. You can unmute yourself and speak as well.
Become more confident and more challenged and more supported all at the same time, actually.
Challenged and supported at the same time. Yes. Suzanne has shared better sense of agency.
I will say also building more trust, acknowledging what the client brings to the coaching session, acknowledging potential, and also allowing in the next question more deeper work to take place.
So acknowledging the potential and creating a safe space for the client to go deeper as the session proceeds forward. Absolutely. So as Nicoletta said, adding to that, it is creating the space for the client to do the work they need to do. You are basically building a foundation or a ground for the client to do the work that they need to do in this session. And when you do that, you are honoring the client, you're honoring their journey, and you are honoring who they are as a person, and which empowers them to believe that they have everything that they need in themselves. They don't need to depend on anyone externally to get what they need. And this coaching journey is a journey for them to become aware of that they are a beautifully created soul or human being by the divine, and they have everything in them. So it's for them a reminder, connect with their innate, naturally resourceful, the most beautiful, most amazing self that they possess within themselves, and to access that this coaching becomes an opportunity for them to access that. And it is our responsibility and privilege as professional coaches to partner with our clients in this way on that kind of a journey where they are rediscovering or discovering themselves and connecting to their true, beautiful being inside of them. And creating trust and safety is a process that we need to start within ourselves first in order to invite our clients or to give it to our clients. So that's also something that I have realized in my own journey as a professional coach. Uh, I am in this, when I do that, I'm reminding my clients who they really are. They are equipped naturally and they are born with natural, unique gifts and talents. And they get reminded of that through our work with them. With this, we will look at the next one, marker 4.2. So 4.2 is coach shows support, empathy, or concern for the client. Now, as we show support, empathy, or concern, it could again be shown directly or indirectly. The tonality in which the coach speaks with the client, and when the client is bringing something difficult, the coach is not getting uh, enmeshed. The word enmeshed means that the coach doesn't get entangled when the client is bringing something difficult, but the coach is able to hold it very safely, very in a very empathetic way for with the client when the client is bringing something difficult, and is able to communicate this to the client that I am here with you and you can go on and you can express yourself. That kind of shows that to the client that I am supported here and the coach is empathetic and is concerned about me. uh, what it doesn't look like is, for example, the client is sharing something challenging about their childhood journey, and the coach, in order to be empathetic, says that I can hear that you didn't have a proper parenting, you didn't get proper parenting, or you didn't have opportunity to have proper education. That could be uh, that's not a positive way of being empathetic with the client. We don't want to take them to a place in the past and to talk about that in that way. So how we can show empathy is, I hear you, or I understand you, or I'm here with you, etc. uh, you can also show empathy with your tone. A lot of times, you don't really have to use a lot of words to show empathy with the client. So, when the assessor is listening to the recording, they can make out with the tonality of the coach and the kind of questions that the coach is asking, that is empathy demonstrated or not. Um, we can show empathy to our clients also in our energy, the way we are showing demonstrating our energy in the session, or energy is again connected with the tonality in the session. If there is a if the client is sharing something difficult, we give them silence or pauses as well, and that's also a form of empathy, that we are not in a rush when they are processing something difficult. We are holding that space for them, and we are letting them express themselves completely. And just saying that you're doing great and I'm here with you, you can keep going, you can share more if you want to. You so it has to be authentic, it has to be your own style, integrated in your own way of coaching. And it has to feel authentic to the client as well in that moment. Like the coach doing showing empathy just for the marker will be very visible and will not feel very natural for the client. So in that moment, if the coach can be very authentic and integrated in their natural style of coaching, the language that they use, that would be really, really good for the coach and for the client as well. Uh, if the coach can ask something like, how do you want to be with this versus what do you want to do with this? So, how do you want to be is a being level question. And this also allows the client to reflect on how do they want to be with that whatever challenging situation that they're bringing. You're not asking them to reflect on the doing part, because the doing part will naturally be more in a coaching session, because there is an agenda and there is an action planning and facilitating growth, etc., that will happen. But something like how do you want to be with this will invite the client also to stay in that space, and is also showing empathy from the coach towards the client. In terms of showing concern for the client, it doesn't mean that the coach thinks that uh, the client cannot process it themselves and let me help them. Like it's not about the coach going into a helping mindset. So there is a difference between being useful and being helpful. So here, when the coach is showing concern, they are showing concern from being useful to the client, and the coach does not assume here that my client is a victim, or my client is carrying a victim mindset and I need to help them. They think that my client is a responsible human being and can take care of themselves. So, and if it is an extreme case, of course, there are as coaches, we are trained to know what is our boundary in terms of our work. And if this is something where we see that there is an extreme case and the client is showing tendencies or behaviors, or in their thought process or what they're sharing, there is a risk to their life, then we of course need to then we need to share it with, we can say that you can look at a therapist, or we need to also legally report that. It hasn't come in my experience as a coach, but it does come in for some of the coaches. So that those will be exceptional cases, but apart from that, the coach sees their client as innately resourceful, responsible human being. And the way they communicate with them in terms of showing concern is not about thinking that in going into a helping mode. So it will be more like the coach says that I'm here for you. You can keep going, or I can hear that this is difficult for you. Those will be some of the examples of showing concern for the client. What is the benefit of this for the client? What is coming up for all of you?
It's knowing that there's someone with them. It's our presence when in providing a safe place for the coachee to feel that they can open up without being judged in any way, even judged as weak. They are not weak. Sometimes the whole solution is, even outside of coaching, is when you just have someone with you. That's all of it.
Mm. Absolutely. That what you said is so beautiful that they get to know that they're not weak. And that happens because we are showing confidence in them, and they can borrow that confidence in that moment when the coach shows that confidence in them.
And they are not alone either.
And they're not alone. Absolutely.
To my mind, the client lives through the feelings he experienced it in a difficult situation.
Yes. And as I was sharing earlier, that in a world which is full of interactions, where very rarely we get an opportunity that there is an unconditional, a space where there is unconditional listening and non-judgmental listening, and there is listening in the first place, where we get an opportunity to just express freely. uh, this becomes an opportunity for the client to experience that. And most of the time, in the corporate setups that I work with, they are mostly highlighted about what is going wrong, and whatever you're doing well, you're paid for. So there is most of the time there's not much acknowledgement or appreciation about that. So your faults are highlighted most of the time. So there is a tendency then to just see the faults in the clients as well, that there will be a tendency to compare, and there will be a tendency to see what I didn't do right and where I screwed up. So when the coach is showing that, holding this kind of a space for them, they are empathetic, and they're showing that care, compassion for them. That is missing in the outside world for them, and that really helps them to feel, to believe in themselves. So these are like sprinklers of support that they get during our coaching session, and that goes a long way in our coaching journey with them. The next one is the coach acknowledges and supports the client's expression of feelings, perceptions, concerns, beliefs, or suggestions. Now, again, here it's a double, um, you get a double marker here. If you demonstrate 4.3, you also get a marker for competency 2 again, because this also shows, when the coach is demonstrating this, it shows that there is client centeredness that the coach is demonstrating here. uh, because the coach is acknowledging and supporting the client's expression of emotions, feelings. Now, the emotions or feelings could be of any degree, of any depth, of any kind, and all the emotions and feelings are welcome. And this means that the coach themselves has done a lot of inner work for themselves to feel very centered and calm in terms of handling or managing any emotions that are coming in the coaching session from the client. And it's not triggering anything in the coach, and the coach is not getting entangled with the emotions that the client is bringing in the session. So the coach is able to hold those emotions for the client. and they're not feeling uncomfortable. If a coach at the PCC level is feeling that they are getting caught up in the emotions that the client is bringing, then they need to do more of their inner work or seek supervision or support so that they're able to kind of handle or manage these emotions in the coaching session when it is coming from the client side. For example, there are many sessions where I see my clients crying, and that's completely okay. And I don't then, and I've seen that in a lot of coaches then share, young coaches, they share this with me, that when the client is crying, how do you manage that? How do you handle that? How do you move them to a more centered, grounded place? And the response to that is, we don't need to take them to a grounded place. It's okay if the client wants to cry in that session. And it's okay if they just want to stay with that emotion or feeling in that session. So it is the client's work, and the client will decide how they want to process their emotion. The coach does not have a need to convert that emotion into a positive one, or to get the client to be more grounded or centered in that moment. So the coach is holding the space for the client, and the coach can check with the client if they are comfortable or okay to move, forward in the session. And you will also know from your clients' expressions after that, that are they comfortable to continue, and then they will only tell you how, what they learned from. So sometimes I've also asked my clients that, what are these tears telling you in this moment? So the coach is not getting enmeshed or entangled, but the coach is still holding the space of reflection for the client. And a lot of these emotions are giving us a lot of information or messages. And we can also use those information or messages that are coming from the emotions of the client to take them forward with respect to whatever is the context or agenda or topic of the session. So, in the professional coaching space, it is important for the coaches to understand that how do you appropriately support the client when they are bringing very serious emotions or feelings, etc. And it is important for the coach to believe that my client is again responsible and innately resourceful, and is completely capable of figuring it out. So they are crying in this moment doesn't mean that they are becoming weak in any way. It's just a very human way of expressing. And the in this is giving them an opportunity to completely witness or experience their emotion, which also is so rare in the outside world. A lot of times, our clients don't get an opportunity to express their emotions completely. So, it is that space where they're able to do that. The key is to really support them, acknowledge them, and encourage them to express their emotions or feelings. This kind of a message that you are okay and you are safe with me and you can keep going, and honoring that, that part of their humanity which is coming out in this expression of these emotions. About the beliefs and suggestion here, it is sometimes there will be some beliefs that the client will share which will be in contradiction to how the coach sees the world. For example, the client is saying something, and the coach says that that's not a proper belief for someone who wants to be a CEO. Now, the intention of the coach is to challenge the client. However, this a kind of a language is not challenging the client, but it will make the client feel judged. So what can the coach say instead? Um, the coach can say that, I get that, if, for example, the example here might be that the client is working on, I need to understand the mindset to be a CEO. And, this is the belief that I'm carrying, that the people here, they show up as lazy or something like that. So that's a challenge for me. And so the coach can say that I understand, or I get that that's a strong belief that you have. Does that belief continue to support you? Or in what way is this belief serving you as you move towards building this mindset for yourself? So this, the coach can ask something in a very open-ended way here to challenge the client. So what could be in terms of so 4.1 versus 4.3. So if you look at the marker 4.1, it is more about accepting and looking at the unique talent insights that the client brings in the coaching process. So there you are telling the client in a way that you are accepted, you are seen, you are valued by me as your coach. In 4.3, it is more about the coach creating a space for the client to express themselves completely. So that's the difference between 4. Although there might be some overlap between 4.1 and 4.3, this is the difference between 4.1 and 4.3. What would be the benefit of this for the client?
I think the client is aware of his feelings and expresses his attitude towards a difficult situation. This way, it becomes independent of external influences.
Absolutely. The client becomes independent of external influences, starts believing in themselves that they have it in them.
Yes.
And if the coach continues to maintain this kind of high level of trust and safety with the client, then in couple of sessions, we observe that the client starts going more and more deeper. And if we challenge their belief in a way that where they feel that the coach is judging them, then they might say that it's not safe for me to share this with Rashmi because she will judge me on this. So I will cut myself here. I would only speak this way. So, she has the attitude and belief that is different from mine, and I will not be accepted. She will not think highly of me, and everyone wants to be acknowledged and appreciated. So they will then reserve that part of themselves. So those beliefs or thoughts that might not be accepted by the coach, they will not bring those in the coaching session. So that might be a challenge here if we don't demonstrate this marker in this way. In fact, from the chemistry session itself, the coach can start rating or placing it to the client that, you can talk to me anything that you want. This is a sacred, safe space for you. And whatever you want to explore, you're free to explore here. This is your work. And you can go as deep as you want to go. So, and you can touch upon any areas from your life. Like you're talking about these goals and these topics. However, you're free to explore and bring anything from your other dimensions of your life as well, be it your family or finances or health. You don't need my permission to say anything. You're free to bring anything in the session. So if we do that, probably it sets the ground and the foundation for the client to feel more and more safe with us as the in the coaching relationship. 4.4 is about the coach partners with the client by inviting the client to respond in any way to the coach's contributions and accepts the client's response. Now, again, this is a double, here you get a double marker because you get 4.4 for exhibiting this, and also competency 2, because here it is the, again, the coaching mindset is demonstrated here of being open, curious, flexible. Flexibility is observed here because the coach is contributing. However, the coach is not attached to their contribution to the client's journey. They're accepting the client's response for their contribution. And we'll just also look at some of the examples here of that. So when we look at this word coach's contribution, it doesn't mean that the coach starts advising the client in any way. It's not about giving advice. Coach's contribution is about the coach's observation, intuitions, feelings, or reactions to what the client is sharing, and the coach taking the permission of the client to share that. So usually I set a frame for the client before I do that if it is my observation or I want to share something. So I usually ask my client, I am noticing something here. Is it okay for me to share that? Because I am sometimes interrupting the flow of the client when I am sharing my observation. So they should not be caught there, but I gently take their permission to share that observation when it is serving the client in that moment and their reflection and their agenda and forward movement towards their agenda. So that's how I then set the frame, and then I seek their permission to share my observation with them. So an example could be that I observed that when you shared X, your voice really went down. You slowed down a little bit. And I'm curious what is happening there. So it could be one of my observation. Or when you were talking about your this thing, your energy levels seemed to me to be going down. What is happening there? So it could be any observation, it could be any noticing, it could be any sensing that you are doing in the coaching session, or it could be your intuition or feeling from what you are observing in the client. It is done in a very non-authoritative, non-directive manner. And if, for example, the client tells me, a lot of time, the client will tell me, no, I don't think, my energy went down. Actually, I'm just tired. And that's okay for me. I will not go and give more explanation to that, or I would not stick to that idea that no, I did observe your energy going down and this is what happened. But I will just accept their response to in the way that they shared it with me, and I will move on, I will move forward, I will ask that, okay, that's okay, and so what would you like to explore next from here? So the coach is not attached to whatever observation, feelings, intuitions they are sharing in that moment. If the client is not saying that it is resonating for them, they just accept the response of the client. So an example could be that the coach does not say after this that, no, I'm pretty sure that this is happening. I'm observing a repeated pattern here of in your voice. Whenever this comes up, your voice goes down. So the coach doesn't need to then go and give more evidences to the client for that. And if that is happening, then the assessor will observe that the coach is not in the role of a coach, but it is coming in the role of a teacher or a parent or a mentor here. And if there was also an example where a coach shared with the client that, whenever X is happening, I'm observing that your energy is going down. And the client shared that, no, it's just that I'm tired. There's nothing connected here. And after 3 weeks, in the same coach-client relationship, the coach observed that again for the same thing, and they shared their observation again. And in that moment, the client connected that there is something there, and then they reflected on it and they connected it. But it was the client's decision in that moment to connect with it, or it was the client who connected, but the coach was not attached to it. The coach is neutrally sharing their observation whenever they're observing something with the client. One of the other examples could be that the coach says that one of my observation, as you share, the coach is saying to the client, one of my observation here is that you add I don't know at the end of every sentence, or I am really not sure at the end of every sentence, and I'm curious what is happening for you, or is there any significance of that? And this is a clean observation from the coach, and the coach is not attached. And if the client says that, yes, there is a connection, then it is their work to connect. If they don't feel a connection, they can say that, no, there is no connection. It's just the way I speak. And the coach says, okay, so where do we move next from here? So there is no attachment of any kind by the coach when they are sharing their observations, feelings, intuitions with the client. And the client chooses to respond in any way that seems appropriate to them in that moment. What could be the benefit of this for the client?
Excuse me. I think in a partnership dialogue with a coach, the client can test his ideas or solutions to see if they are suitable for him.
Absolutely. And when they do that, they start believing that they are in charge here of their own process. So it's okay for them to experiment, to explore, to test their ideas. And it's okay to make mistakes also, or it's okay to bring anything in here in this session. And it's their session, it is their agenda, it is their life. And it is not the coach's place to give advice. In this way, the coach is creating trust and safety, not for that session, but for the whole journey and for the client's life.
Yes.
I will also add something here, because for me it's like holding a mirror about what we are seeing, what our intuition is telling us, what we are also feeling in everything that is happening in the room. And I think sometimes this could also increase the awareness of our clients about what is going on, maybe what they are saying, maybe they are not aware of how do we see them, right? So yeah, I think it could deepen a bit the self-awareness when we are sharing this. Of course, that might be that they are not on the same page with what we are sharing, which is fine also, as long as we are detached from what we are perceiving in that moment. I think it's okay.
Absolutely. It's what you're sharing is what is coming up for me is the word instrument, that the coach is like an instrument, a sensing instrument in that moment with the client. So whatever they are sensing, they're also sharing that, and they're also a mirror here for the client to really see something very clearly. And the last thing that you said, that even if it is not resonating, it actually solidifies or clarifies for the client a few things. Sometimes when something is offered to me and I don't resonate it with me, it doesn't resonate, it becomes more clearer to me that okay, this is not that, but this is it for me. So it's always good to rely on our intuition as coaches, and that's one of the uh, very very useful tools that we can use in the coaching process, and is allowing the client to go deeper, become more vulnerable as well when we are creating this kind of a trust and safety. And the if they are feeling safe with me to cry in the session, it's a demonstration, or it shows how safe the session is for the client, that they can also cry in the session. They can express their deep emotions, feelings. And when this happens, that we are demonstrating, or we are creating a space of trust and safety, uh, what also required for us is to be fully present with the client, regardless of what they are sharing in that session. So, what the point that we touched upon briefly earlier, that there is a possibility that it can trigger something for us, and our that comes in the way of our presence sometimes. So the coach needs to be aware of that, and maybe to keep a note of what is triggering them, and do that work with the help of supervision, or with the help of their own reflection practices, so that they are able to be completely present with the client even when they are bringing difficult, challenging, deep emotions or feelings. uh, Here at the PCC level, the being part is as important as the doing part, and there is a 50-50 focus on both. So it is not only about the session, uh, about the goal or the action or the doing level, but it is about this being level of the client. Who is this client, and what are they experiencing in every moment in the session? Who are they beneath the surface level, beneath it, deep down the surface level? How do they process emotion? How do they think? What are their perception? What are their beliefs? Their The coach is able to create a space for the client to go there, touch those parts. The client will bring a challenge or a situation, and would want to probably have some reflection or plan or action about that. So that's the doing part. But as the client, coach holds the space for the doing part, along with that, at the PCC level, the coach also needs to touch the human part, the being part, the understanding of who this client is really really important. How do they show up? What is their being? So, and that can only happen when the coach is able to do that work for themselves. As we were sharing before, that if the coach is able to create that space of trust and safety for themselves, if they can manage their own emotions, then they can be in the space of handling it with ease, and they can deal with their own triggers or own things that create that emotions for them. So that's the work that the coach needs to do in order to show in this way, and in order to cover both the doing and the being part in the coaching session. So now we will move to the competency 5. How are we doing on time? Can anybody tell me what's the time I can see here on my screen, right? What's the time right now? Nicoletta, if you can tell me from Luxembourg.
Yes, I was looking for the mute button. 7:30.
7:30. Okay.
Yes.
So
So we still have 30 minutes, I think. It's
yes,
until
30
8, right?
minutes. Yeah. Okay, we'll try to do it a little faster than this one. In terms of maintains presence, we have total 5 markers here. The first marker is coach acts in response to the whole person of the client. So when the word whole person and the who is used here in the bracket, whole person or the who is about the situation, the issue, the problem, the goal, the aspiration that the client is bringing in the session. That's the who part of it. And also what is beneath or underneath that situation, issue, problem, goal, or aspiration that the client is bringing. So it is really looking at the layer which is underneath this layer of what the client is bringing as a situation or topic or a challenge. Uh, and who are they? Who is this human being underneath this layer of this topic? So, who are they showing up as a human is really important to understand as we explore the whole person or the who of the client in the session. And unless we are demonstrating that, 5.1 is not demonstrated. And it is, of course, a privilege or a responsibility of a professional coach to really take the client there in terms of the being, as we also explore the what for the client, like the situation or the challenge or the goal. And that really helps in development of the whole human being through this coaching process. So we are supporting the human being here, their innate magnificence or their innate core, which is abundant, which is resourceful, which is amazing. Again, as you do demonstrate 5.1, when you cover the being part of the client in the session, you're also covering competency 2 here, which is the coaching mindset, that the coach maintains a coaching mindset, which is open, curious, flexible. An example here could be that, for example, the client shares that I need to communicate this to my global team in, say, Europe or Asia, Africa, etc. And if the coach asks a question, who do you want to show up as you do that? Who do you want to show up as? So the client might understand or might say that, can you give me more examples of this? And the coach can probably explain that, do you want to show up as confident or compassionate, frustrated? How do you want to show up? Or your core value of this X, how do you want to show up as you do this communication? So this is a being level question. The coach is asking the client, who do they want to show up in terms of their being as they do that? Who do you need to be? In the question like what will you do, how will you do it, are doing level questions, and who do you need to be is a being level question. So if the coach only asks situation based question and doesn't touch the human being part of the client, then the being part is not covered and this marker is not demonstrated. So the benefit for the client could be that it enables or continues to develop the human behind the person as the coach does that. It also creates the confidence in being their own self in the client. They can be their self and they become more aware of their own self. It generates that kind of comfort level for them, and it also creates that acceptance of the client towards themselves. It leads to personal mastery for the client as well, as they continue to become more and more aware of themselves. Well, 5.2 is coach acts in response to what the client wants to accomplish throughout this session. So this is the what. This is also a double marker. So here, when this is demonstrated, marker 3.1, which we did in the last session, which is about what do you want to accomplish as a goal throughout the session, that also is marked together. So these are both connected. So when 3.1 is accomplished well, then only 5.2 could be demonstrated. And as 5.2 is demonstrated, 3.1 is also demonstrated along with that. So here the client would have already shared upfront what they want to accomplish in this session, what is the goal for the session. And the coach keeps a focus on that goal throughout the session as the client continues to share. So for example, sometimes there could be something that might sound like a tangent to the coach as the client continues to express. So the coach might say that, with the goal that you brought today, how is this connected with this goal as you shared this? So this is a way of the coach keeping a track of the session, keeping the focus of the session, and inviting the client to see if what they are reflecting on is connected with their goal. And the client can choose then that maybe if the goal is shifting for the client would say that now I said that I want to work on A, but now B is becoming more important for me to focus on or work on. And as we discussed in the last webinar, if the goal is changing for the client, then the coach needs to do the contracting again. So the coach can say that, okay, so we have 20 minutes left in the session, and you're saying that B is becoming more important for you to explore. What would you like to achieve with respect to B today in this session? And also touch upon the measure of success. So how will you know that you have got B in the next 20 minutes? But it is really important that the coach is using in the next 20 minutes, in the next 15 minutes, in the next 30 minutes in this session. It cannot be outside the session. The goal, the measure of success, the importance, all of that needs to be in the session, not outside the session. So the benefit of 5.2 is that it keeps the session on track and the agenda in focus. More things gets done if the goal is there in the focus of the coach maintains the focus on the goal in the session in lesser time. And a good way of doing this could be that the coach can check in the session, maybe a couple of times in the session with respect to the goal with the client to check where are they with respect to the goal or how is this connected, etc. Sometimes there could be a sponsor and a client in the coaching relationship. Because coaching is a client-centric process, the goal, for example, the sponsor says that better communication is what I'm expecting out of this coaching process. And the client brings a topic which is related to the relationship with their family. The coach always works with the goal that is brought by the client. It's a client centric process. So, whatever agreement needs to happen can happen in a common session along with the sponsor and the client. However, in the session, the client brings the agenda and the coach is working on the agenda which is brought by the client. 5.3 is coach partners with the client by supporting the client to choose what happens in this session. Now here it is again a double marker because competency 2 gets marked when 5.3 is also demonstrated, which is the coaching mindset, that the coach is exhibiting an open, curious, flexible mindset. So for example, if the client is sharing something and the coach asks the client, so would you want to go further into A? Or is there something else that would be more useful for you to explore? So the coach is always inviting the client to choose how they want to move forward in the session. And this is not only about the inquiry or the questions that the coach brings, but it could also be applied to any tools that the coach uses in the coaching process, whether it is a tool that can help the client visualize, or whether it is an exercise that the coach invites the client to do. The coach always shares with the client that this, I have a tool or this is an exercise and this can be useful in doing this. Would you be open to trying it? So the coach always takes permission of the client when they are using any tools or exercises, etc., in the session, and the client chooses how do they want their session to be. So the client has the full autonomy in terms of the movement in the session, the direction of the session, and the depth of the session, where do they want to go deeper, etc. And the coach's role is to gently hold it with respect to the focus of the session, and to continue to check in with the client and invite the client to choose. So the benefit of this is that it again reiterates that this is a client-centric process, a client-centric work, and the autonomy is given to the client. So it's almost like there is a car and the client is at the driver's seat and the coach is sitting in the passenger seat. And the client is deciding where do they want to go next. Or for example, if they are taking a left turn, the coach can check with them, as you take this left turn, how is this connected with the destination B that we are going to? So the client is deciding and driving the car. However, the coach is there as a support or a reflection partner here with the client. If you have any questions, you can unmute and ask. I'm trying to cover it in this 30 minutes, so I'm going a little bit faster. 5.4 is coach demonstrates curiosity to learn more about the client. Here, competency 2 is also demonstrated, which is the coach exhibits an open, curious, flexible mindset, because the coach is demonstrating curiosity to learn more about the client here. So what does this look like or sound like when the coach does that? Now, mostly coaches are inherently curious. and that curiosity is demonstrated in the way the coach asks question to the client. However, it should not be in the service of the coach's curiosity, but it should be in the service of the client's agenda and the client's forward movement with respect to their agenda in the session. It should always be in the service of the client. So often a question is asked that whose curiosity is this? Is this the coach's own curiosity to know more about the details of what the client is sharing? Or is it in the service of the client's goal, agenda, and the client, him or her themselves? And that curiosity that the coach shows is without authority. It is the curiosity which is not leading, which is not directing. It could be a curiosity to understand the being behind the client, their beliefs, their desired outcomes, etc. And the curiosity is demonstrated in there are a lot of times where the client is sharing something and the coach has not asked any curiosity based questions to them to explore that deeply. For example, if the client is taking a decision to move to another country, for their work or for their career, a curiosity based question by the coach could be an invitation for the client to reflect on how will this impact. What are some of the important dimensions of your life that it will impact, or what impact will it have, what impact will your decision have on your family, or to what degree is your family impacted here, etc., or what other parts of your life are being impacted. And the client could say that there is no impact on my family, and that's also completely okay. So the coach asks the curiosity based question also in a non-attached way. And the again, it is the client's agenda and it is not the coach's agenda that the coach will ask questions about. So the coach will not continue to if the client says that no, my family is not impacted here, the coach would not start saying that family is really important and what age is your child and etc., etc. So they don't go deeper there. If the client says that this is not important, then that's not important and that's completely okay. So it is the coach is operating from a curious mindset, which is open mind, open heart, and serving the agenda of the client. The benefit of this is that sometimes the client might have a blind spot in terms of not being able to look at something. And when the coach asks curiosity based questions, then the client says that, oh, I missed that part. So thank you for asking me this. And even when they don't agree to it, at times that reinforces or clarifies something for them. So when the coach has asked something and they say that, okay, no, this is not important for me, but they actually then reflect on what is really important for them. So that gets clarified, solidifies in their mind. So often we hear these sentences from our clients and they say that, oh, that's a really good question. So in that moment, because we asked a curiosity based question, that's really useful for them. So it supports the client in broadening the scope of their thinking, the possibilities that they can think about the topic or focus that they're bringing. 5.5 is coach allows for silence, pause, or reflection. Now, there are many times, this is really the most precious skill set that a coach can build in their coaching journey, which is to to allow for silence and pause and give a space for reflection to the client. And it is often observed that the client, while reflecting, they take certain pauses. And sometimes for the young coaches or early coaches, it might be seen as the client has paused, so they feel the pressure to speak because that will feel awkward if there is silence in the session. But it is quite opposite to that. As you go deeper in the coaching journey, you realize that in that moment of pause or silence, the client is still processing something. And when we give that enough silence, the client starts speaking again. And I have often observed in my session that that the moment of insight comes from that moment of pause or silence. So very, very valuable to give to the to kind of create in our space as professional coaches, where we are just present with the client. And because we are so fully present with the client, we know that they are still processing something even in their silence. So that's the kind of tuning in and presence that happens in the session when we are able to be fully present. And this is really, really precious to have that ability to truly listen in even in silence to the client. So there is a difference between the marker 5.5 and 6.6. When we will do 6.6 in the next webinar, we will see that 6.6 also talks about silences, and it is about not interrupting the client as they speak, as they continue to share. So the difference between 5.5 and 6.6 is 5.5 is maintains presence and 6.6 is active listening. So what the difference is, in 5.5, we are giving these intentional, deliberate, long moments of silences and pauses, which are intentional. Sometimes my clients also ask me, are you there? And I say, yes, very much. So they can be so long. And in the when you're listening to the recording, you can see that the client has spoken, then the coach has paused. There is no rush to, although my name is Rashmi, but I'm not rushing to ask the next question. So I'm just there holding the space for them. And there is at least a 6 second or 7 seconds pause. And then the next question is asked. So sometimes in that space, they again start speaking. And I am happily, just listening to them because there is something new that comes up in that space of silence. So 5.5 is about these deliberate, intentional moment of silence that can be observed in a recording. 6.6 is the coach is letting the client speak completely, is not interrupting the client as they speak, as they share. So it's about active listening. So there could be several long pauses in the session. And it is demonstrated when the client is sharing something. There is a pause, and the client again starts sharing something. So it is demonstrated that the coach is giving a space of deliberate silence or pauses in the session where the client is able to reflect deeply. So this way, the client feels that they are being heard, they can express themselves fully, they know that they are supported, and they are not going to get any advice in this session. They are going to do their own work, and they are capable of doing their own work, and they can take as much time as they want. And sometimes when the coach is demonstrating this, it also helps the client to feel more grounded. So the coach giving silences and pauses in the session allows the client, sometimes they're coming directly from some meetings, and when they enter my session, because I am giving them silences and pauses, they know that they can also slow down if they want to in the session and then reflect deeply and go deeper. So it's a very, very rare commodity these days, and it's a gift for us as coaches that we can give that kind of a space for our clients. Um,
Oh,
it's that meditative moment which is built in the coaching space, and coaching is one of the rare fields where this is inbuilt in the session itself. For example, if the client is feeling something difficult, they are uh, processing some grief, they are sharing some loss, the coach doesn't interrupt them. The coach does not feel awkward when there is a long silent moment there. The coach is completely at ease with respect to what the client is bringing, and they invite or they hold that space for the client to fully experience their emotions. Sometimes they take time to also experience or feel the emotions, and they don't get it outside. So in the session, the coach is holding that space of silence so that the client is able to experience those significant moments. And it would be useful for us as coaches probably to also try this with our kids, with our partners, where we are not trying to get into the role of advising immediately as they are coming up with something to us, and that we can give them a complete non-judgmental listening where they feel completely heard, and then there is a silence after that as well. Like often uh, in all the other setups, there is, in the meetings, for example, in the offices, when somebody is speaking, the other person is already thinking the next point, which is a better point than what the other person is speaking, what they can speak next, or what could be a better point here. So for coaches to really build on that skill of not having any thoughts in the mind to what to speak next as the client is speaking would be a very beautiful practice or gift to inculcate. And that also can be practiced in our home to start with. Um, yeah, I think this is it. This is the last one. And the benefit of this is that the client feels heard, the client feels uh, this is the maybe the rare time that the client feels that completely heard. So that's the benefit for the client, and that's the benefit for the whole coaching process as well, because when that happens, the client can go deeper. And we see that in often in the journey that it might not show up in the first or second session, but by the third session, the client starts going really, really deep when all of these markers are demonstrated, and it creates that kind of trust and safety in the coaching process. So the silence is I call it a sacred silence. So very beautiful to have in our sessions. So with that, we are coming at the close of our webinar for today. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time, your curiosity, openness today in this session, which really helped in deepening our learning today and in the service of everyone's learning. Thank you very much. see you all in the next webinar, if that's possible for you to join.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It was
Thank
very
you. Thank you so
beautiful.
much, Rashmi. It was
Yeah.
really
Thank you,
amazing. Thank
Rashmi.
you. Very useful, as always.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great
Thank you.
evening. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Most welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.